Morgan began his career as a spoken word artist in 1993. In 1998, Morgan received both the African Canadian Achievement Award and the Harry Jerome Award for Excellence in the Arts. He is also the winner of 3 Canadian Urban Music Awards in 2001, 2003, and 2005. Clap it up for that shit. Wow. We met once or twice, or 3 times. In 2005, he was recognized as Poet of Honor at the Canadian Festival of Spoken Word in Vancouver. In 2008, his contribution to the arts and Canadian society were recognized on the official Black History Month poster. Put your hands together and show him our inspired word love all the way from Canada. It is Dwayne Morgan.
All right, so how's everybody doing tonight? Excellent. So I definitely want to thank Mike and the whole crew for having me here. I got to give a big shout out to a good friend of mine named Tantra, who introduced Mike and I online, and also introduced Nathan and I to each other. So I'm just going to share a few poems and we'll see how this goes. So, as men, many of us tend not to see women as complete human beings, so instead we break them down into parts, using Barbie doll images to determine who and what women really are. And we've gone so far that we've made some women hate themselves. Dark skin still isn't right. There are products on store shelves to make dark skin light, for the closer it gets to white, the greater the chance that she might get a blind. Instead of fixating on her skin color, she can worry about her cup size, because as men, we got some women staring at their chest, not satisfied with the size of their breast, taking matters into their own hands, resorting to surgical implants, watching as their cup size grows. Young children are being born fed on hormones laced with silicone, as our misogyny condones us being anti-women because we don't love women, we just love some parts of women, but the sum of her parts is her essence. Age is both wisdom and a blessing, yet some women don't want to age, wishing that they could be 25 for the rest of their days, going under the knife, allowing surgeons to stretch their face, cutting the years and the wrinkles away, not recognizing the beauty of the age or age's beauty, because she has been broken down into parts, having her worth tied to some of her parts, but the sum of her parts is her beauty. As men continue to compartmentalize her into thick thighs and booty, because you know it's our duty to find the woman with the nicest ass, and to compensate for those who don't have. Stores are now selling underwear with pads, while those with too much are taking fat from the back and are putting it in their lips. So we wonder why some women speak so much shit, doing just about anything to be shaped like an hourglass. Skinny girls have eating disorders, thinking that they're fat, while big girls are on diets trying to look like that. And it would appear to me as though women have gone mad trying to live up to these standards as we as men set but could never pass. So she tries to pass by introducing him to her soul, but his sole thought is that her soul is just a hole. So he loves her for her whole, and he thinks she's just a hole. He forgets about her soul and judges her by her whole. But men, we've got to love her as a whole. We've got to love her wholeheartedly, holistically. We've got to love she who holds the mystery to carry we to life. We've got to love her not by our standard, but by God's standard of perfection. She's deserving of love, respect, and affection as is. The gods made no mistakes when they created their kids, so we have to recognize that every woman is a star who needs to be loved for who she is and for the sum of all her parts. Thank you. I firmly believe that inspiration, at least for me, comes from anywhere, and I just try to live in every moment because I never know when something random is going to inspire something else. So this poem is actually inspired by a country music song that I heard by accident. And in listening to the words of this song, I was like, all right, the song, I really, felt the song, and then life happened, and then when I was trying to figure out how to write about life, this song came back from the subconscious and ended up inspiring the piece. So goes like this. 3 months ago, 3 words set my world into a tailspin. I must have asked him to repeat himself at least 3 times just to make sure that I was hearing him right. And each time he repeated the same 3 words. I have cancer. To this day, I'm still in shock. And every time I try to talk with him, he's been busy or probably just avoiding me. The thought of him passing has haunted me like a recurring nightmare. And there he was, opening the door to a flood of emotions and questions I couldn't find the words to ask. I was glad to still have him, but pissed at the cards that he'd been dealt. I sat in the awkward silence, growing increasingly angry with myself on my inadequacies. I wanted to tell him how much those 3 words had affected me, but silence was all that I had. Then, like a precious artifact slipping through a toddler's hands, he broke it, shattering it with the soft tone of his voice. He said that today, someone will find out that the person that they are living for is dying. And right now as we speak, there's a woman trying to find the words to tell her children that she's contracted HIV. And tonight a phone receiver will hit the floor as a mother learns that her son will never return through her door. It doesn't take much for our entire lives to change. That split second when we look away to try to reach our cell phone, the electrical fire in the middle of the night, none of us knows what's next in our lives, and sometimes we just need a wake-up call to remind us of how precious every moment is. I've never felt such pride and joy in my kids. I've noticed how differently the air smells in the morning, and I've slowed down, taking time out for family and friends, because in the end, this is it. Tomorrow might be too late. And at the end of the day, life is worth more than paychecks. It's about people and experiences. So I've gone skydiving and hot air balloon riding, placing ticks to the left and lines through the items on my bucket list. He said that those who live with hope always die happy, and that he was hoping for the best. No longer taking people and things for granted. And through his own admission, he was once too much of a man to show his emotions, but now shows love like a film on life's movie screen. And even though he was never able to do it before, every morning before his wife leaks through the door, he lets her know that he loves her more than he did yesterday and less than he will should he be blessed with a tomorrow. And knowing him, that hit me like a kick to the ribs in mixed martial arts. This man who had always been so hard was now pouring out his heart like a libation. And I couldn't understand why he seemed so happy while I couldn't stop myself from crying. We hugged, a manly hug, as he said confidently in my ear that you will never truly live until you can live like you were dying. Thank you. Now, I don't know if any of y'all are into the slam scene and all that kind of stuff, but I know Labor Day weekend in Toronto, I do this thing called the Toronto International Poetry Slam. I put up $1,000. People come from wherever to try to take my money away. And I don't know what it is about New York, but we've done the show for 8 years now. 6 of the 8 years, Jamal St. John from New York has come up and taken my money away. One of the years when he didn't win, Carlos Andres Gomez from New York came up and took my money away. So anybody else, want to try it out, just come talk to me. I can tell you how you can get in on that. It's Labor Day, the Sunday of Labor Day weekend, every single year. So this next poem is called Confessions of an Artist. Love is the last thing that I was looking for. But like law enforcement on a fugitive, it caught up with me when I least expected it. And just like that, I was caught. Now love, I guess I can handle, but I've always been weary of relationships, so I don't even know exactly how I got here. I mean, it might have been the naughty limericks that I'd whisper in her ear, the sensual sonnets my fingertips would write on her naked skin. Our foreplay would always begin with words. The sex was unbelievable, but like a marionette, it always came with strings attached. When asked, she would say that she fell in love with the first experience with my pen, which she nicknamed her magic stick, for its ability to move us from poetry venues to mattresses, her place or mine. And as good as things were, I couldn't help but think that I was living a lie, because the hardest thing for any of us to do is to be truly honest with ourselves. And though it's taken some time for me to come to terms with this, I can finally admit that I have issues with faithfulness, because I've been known to elope with every great idea that comes to mind, with marriages being annulled every time a new muse catches my eye. Even when her and I are together, I can't stop thinking about my rhymes. There's been many a night when we shared a bed, and while being deep in her sex, I can't stop my head from thinking how best to describe this with my pen, and she can tell that I'm not totally there. This writer's blocked, and I know that she wants to talk, but I try to avoid that conversation at all costs, because I really don't want to hurt her. I mean, how can I let her know that when she calls and isn't getting me, I'm out on dates with metaphors while having booty calls with similes, and hoping that she never finds out about the threesome that I had with that rhyming couplet, which has me making frequent visits to the free verse clinic, because my life is a double entendre, saying one thing with much more hidden between the lines. And it would be a lie if I said that this whole relationship thing didn't have me confused. I mean, I thought I lost it all when she confronted me with tears in her eyes like, who is this bitch named Haiku? And I was like, damn, she must have found found those syllables in my jeans. My explanation, or rather apology, came in the form of a soliloquy full of, sweetheart, I'm so sorry. Sometimes I do some stupid and silly things. Those syllables aren't what they seem. Besides, she's only 17. You see, a guy like me probably won't remember your birthday or anniversaries unless I incorporate them into some form of poetry. Because outside of my rhymes, I have the attention span of a pea. And I swear that at some point I had to have been diagnosed with AD. Wait, what were we just talking about? It probably doesn't matter. What I'm trying to say is this. Please don't love me. I'm just a man. And even worse, I'm an artist. Flawed beyond measure. But if you want to take a chance and think that I might be your type, you can catch me on stage next week at the Inspired Words. Open mic. So I'm going to do two more poems to get out of here. This one is the title poem from one of my books. This is called The Making of a Man. And I do have a whole slew of books and CDs in Toronto as far as I got to get back. If you have the means to support, please do. If you don't, just come and say hello. It's all okay. All right, so this is called The Making of a Man. We are all the manifestation of our parents' thoughts and desires. Whether we are planned or the result of a one-night stand, and I've never asked the circumstance surrounding my conception. Because when you ask the questions, you can't hide from the answers, so I pretend as though I don't want to know. You see, my papa was a rolling stone, and I wonder if I too will follow the same path. If my home will be wherever I lay my hat and though I try. I can't understand how I'm supposed to take it, but my mom tells me that I'm exactly like my dad because he brought her love and he left her with pain. Her version of what happened always has other names to be blamed, but you can't always be the victim. And even if you are, at some point you have to recognize the part that you have played in your own victimization because it can't always be someone else's fault. And I have fought within myself trying to find the best way to help with half of me hoping that one day she'll be strong and the other half wanting to hold her and tell her to move on because life moves on whether or not we choose to. And throughout my moving on, I've never had the best of everything, but I've made the best of everything that I had. And my mom would probably kick my butt for coming here and telling you there was a time when our dinner came from the food bank, and I watched how that hurt her pride as she denied herself to provide for her kids. And it would be a lie faster than I never cried because on many nights I did, but it was in those times that I offered up the most praise because rainy days don't last forever. And the sun is sure to shine, so when people ask me why I write, it's because my life depends on it. And I try to master myself. I become a slave to my pen, writing wherever and when God sends the inspiration, hoping to set my demons free, hoping to find peace, but inner peace is increasingly hard to find. I just want to be loved, not for who you think I am or who you want me to be. I want to be loved for me, a black man who is in love with his people, but not at the expense of his love for all people, because the price of hating others is that you love yourself less, and hate runs deep in the hearts of many. I'm a black man who daily overcomes fear and shyness and speak in a world where it is far easier to remain silent. I'm a black man who is a work in progress. What you see is what you get, and by tomorrow might have changed because I'm not too old to grow. And until God comes down and clutches me from this earth with his hands, nothing will ever stop the making. For this last piece I'm going to do, I know in that piece I said I didn't want to know the circumstances surrounding my conception, so that was an older piece, because for this piece I interviewed my mother about the circumstances surrounding my conception to create this last piece. And I think it's very interesting. Both of my parents are immigrants from Jamaica, and you know, I meet people all the time that won't even travel out in their hood. And it's like, these are two young people who left everything that they knew. Right? They were chilling in some sunshine. They had never seen white people in real life ever until they got to Toronto. They had never felt cold, never seen snow. Everything was brand new to them. Yet I work with a lot of young people who will not leave their hood to go see what's going on in another section of the same city that they live in. And like, where did that curiosity go? That sense of adventure, that sense of wanting better. So I recognize that my parents made that decision so that my sister and I could have the best possible chance at life. So every morning when I get up, I ask myself, what is it that I can do in this day to make sure that the sacrifices that they made weren't in vain. And I have a 4-year-old daughter now, and I had all these plans for what I was going to do, and I'm recognizing all the sacrifices that I'm making for her. And my greatest hope is that a day will come when she does something with her life so that all of these sacrifices just seem like a worthy part of the puzzle. So thank you guys for indulging me with your ears and for listening. This last piece is called January 1974. January 1974. Two immigrants huddled, shielding themselves from the Canadian cold, rubbing their bodies together like sticks in the hands of Boy Scouts, trying to recreate the Jamaican heat they had known well but had left behind. Paradise was now just a memory, tucked into that space behind the eyes, replaced by a reality of snow as they skated on thin ice as they tried to find this new life they'd been promised and heard so much about. Nights of heat-seeking planted a bun in the oven. By the third trimester, an engagement ring came as they counted down to month number 9. Each October morning was greeted with a case of nerves as they anticipated whether or not this would be the day. 2 weeks came and passed. On a Monday, they congregated with potential grandparents to eat, talk, laugh, and give thanks to the Savior. Later that night, what might have been gas turned out to be labor. Relatively painless, 2 hours later, the two who had given up their son were given a new one, their first. Born on a Tuesday, I was the immigrant's dream. My mom was a hot girl in the 70s, but having me made her lukewarm as she stretched from a size 7 to a 14 to accommodate my potential. So I always try to live up to it. Humbled by the sacrifices made by 21-year-old kids, I am the immigrant's dream. Cut from the same cloth, just another part of the quilt, so everything that I build is built on their backs. I take no steps forward without looking back. I keep my past and my present and my lineage in perspective so that regret will never be a part of our family's existence. No second guessing whether or not a better life ever existed. For as long as I continue bearing my soul through my creativity and my writing, there'll be no need for them to yearn for the heat from the Jamaican sun, because I am their dream. And when they look at me, I want them to see that their sun is still shining.
Clap it up some more for Canada's own Dwayne